being stupid. TV rules!
Welcome to Book Slice, where pizza and sex are great and books are the ranch dip. Our pelagic party chatter focuses on the novella-novel combo, Rolling in the Deep, and Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, aka Seanan McGuire. McGuire is famed for the Newsflesh series, numerous literary awards, and most importantly, the subject of the Wikipedia article titled Seanan McGuire. A horror sci-fi mix, each book follows a ship sailing for the Mariana Trench in search of proving the existence of mermaids. Cable channel Imagine Network, renowned for running B-movies and sci-fi classics under the duress of low ratings and funds, decide to mix up programming with mockumentaries based around legendary creatures. The Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot a success, Not Sci-Fi Network Imagine takes its hyperfiction brand of entertainment to the Mariana Trench in search of mermaids. Imagine Network's funded voyage, populated with a production crew, skeptical scientists, and even a backup team of trained mermaids, should they not find anything, was a disaster. 6 weeks after setting sail, their ship was found empty, all 60 members missing. 7 years after Imagine Network's mermaid voyage, there is still a bit of mystery regarding their tragic ends. Though regarded as a hoax, the released footage of the incident has sparked interest across the world in a variety of fields. Internet forums, universities, and top-tier science nuts are not quick to totally dismiss it as a hoax. In financially dire straits yet again, Imagine Network funds another expedition with a bigger ship and a bigger crew. Will they find out what happened? Like a pair of siblings, numbers, or phobias, there are commonalities shared between the two novels. Plot is almost the same, but aside from the length, the two books play with different levels of horror and science fiction. Why should you read both? Should you read one? Should you read only the odd pages? We'll look to see what works and what doesn't between them. The framing of the voyages around a cable TV network is very creative and parallels to something you could see today. Grant gets the satire right, especially in the first book. Characters outside of the crew, and even some within, express a "can you believe this shit" mentality while filming occurs. Scientists dumb down their jargon into sound bites for public consumption for the chance to carry out invaluable research in the Mariana Trench. Crew members view this as another gig. The mockumentary hosts see this as a stepping stone towards greater things. Also, it goes into some interesting quirks behind the scenes. The fact that in the first voyage, Imagine hired a team of professional mermaids in case they didn't find anything. The fact that in the second voyage, Imagine hired security based on how they looked on camera, rather than the ability to fire a gun. Lastly, and this is more in the novella, the initial documentary makes a very effective framing device that adds mystery and builds suspense for when the cheesiness of the subject matter is eventually flipped and the existence of mermaids is revealed. The segments intercut with the drama unfolding on both our ships no longer mock, but magnify the very real terror that those on the voyages are experiencing. The Mariana Trench as a setting is great. It adds mystery, and the book capitalizes on how it is the least explored place on Earth. Like how so much of the Earth consists of water and only 5% of it is explored. Or some shit. Figuratively and literally, the physical depth builds suspense in addition to the unknown creature feature factor that capitalizes on it. The sea, appreciated by most of the book's characters, is a reflection of Grant's own personal reverence towards the environment. Descriptive imagery of the sea life, down to even the smallest fauna, all the way up to the uninterrupted night sky that is reflected in the ocean waters, all communicate awe and wondrous beauty. The balance between awe and terror is reflected well in the mythical creatures. Grant, from afar, depicts the lithe, lengthy-haired figure of mythology that often confuses lonely sailors for maiden sirens. These sirens, up close though, have an alien description of a human sea creature hybrid that got stuck in between man's evolutionary period between the sea and crawling up on the shore. As more information is discovered about the creatures in the second book, the mystique from the initial novella is slowly substituted for believable scientific jargon. This trade-off will annoy some others and excite some others too, but I think all will be turned off by the horrific description of the mermaids. They're pretty gross. There are a lot of horror conventions used here, but what with the actual nautical setting and surprisingly not lame take on "what if mermaids existed" premise, the novella remains a very entertaining romp, start to finish. Jumps and surprises can almost remind one of Alien, as the ship and environment is a haunted house in nautical space. Grant draws influences from all horror cards, even hiding a Lovecraftian flourish up her sleeve, hinting at the idea that the very real mermaids were probably here millions of years before humans existed. The second novel adds bits of body horror on a microscopic level, foreign chemicals, and gene interaction. All of this compounds the effect with a hard sci-fi edge not present in the first. While the books have shades of Lovecraftian influence, unlike Lovecraft, Grant does not write characters within a narrow worldview. The cast of characters is refreshingly diverse, multicultural, gay, deaf, fervent environmentalists, and even intolerable assholes. The scale is wide and far-reaching. Deaf characters in particular added a layer of creativity in both the role of a ship's first mate and the scientists doing research on board. Interestingly enough, there are even sections which are written from the mermaid's perspective. Though the diversity is good and doesn't come off as pandering, most of them show little growth beyond their introduction. But that's to be expected with genre fare. Because there's a lack of growth, sometimes spent on revising backstories or flashbacks seem to hinder the pace a little bit. The books are fascinating for those interested in the sea. Both go into great depth about the environment, wildlife, and corresponding research techniques. The information is expressed in a captivating manner throughout the entire novella and about halfway through the second novel. Around this time, things are getting into gear and definitive. We have tangible proof of the creature's existence, and the scientists do their science thing by researching samples and a plethora of other objects. While the research is not exactly fluff and is important in the context of the story, it kind of messes up the pacing of the book at that point. Kind of like if, in The Thing, they padded the blood test scene with minutia on both ends for 15 minutes. But if that scenario interests you, then things will only get better from that point. Corporeal evidence of the mystical creatures does take away from some of the mystique, mythos, and horror, so take that as you will. The amount of knowledge known by both the reader and the crew members have a different effect for the novella and novel, which is to say, the novella leaves things a bit more ambiguous and the novel leaves things a bit more conventional. Horror and hard sci-fi, apples and oranges, Alien and Aliens. A creative horror venture for those who are enamored or afraid of the sea. Regardless, it's good summer reading on a beach or boat.